Hey guys, this is Zexanite. Welcome to the Zex Talk and welcome to Shiny September. This is a series I'm doing this month where I take a look at my favorite and least favorite shiny Pokemon of each generation. And today, we're taking a look at my favorite shinies from Generation 6. I've been doing top 5 lists all month. This one is a top 10. Because I said so. Okay, if I have to explain, X and Y actually got some really amazing shinies. I got up to 10 Pokemon and I still had some really difficult cuts to make. It was hard enough getting the list down to 10 and being satisfied. I don't know if I'd feel good about cutting any of these guys from my list. And if you have a problem with it, dude, just cut to number 5. It's not that big a deal. With that said, let's get right into it. Number 10. This is another one of those alternate form shinies. I know I keep putting these on my list, but I can't help it. They're just such clever ideas that I can't help but love. And I know that this might annoy some people. This is not a popular Pokemon, and I realize that. Personally, I'm completely fine with it, and I don't quite get all the hate. But I think Sluruff is really cute. Yeah, it has a derpy little tongue sticking out, but it's kinda like a dog. Dogs stick their tongues out. What can you do? Anyway, original Slurpuff is primarily white with pink. This makes sense based on its fairy type. And given that Slurpuff is based on a dessert, this makes sense, like a little vanilla custard with strawberry sauce and topped with a strawberry. The shiny, on the other hand, turns a cream color with brown topping and bright red markings. This makes me think of two things. First, this coloring reminds me a lot of flan. Flan is actually an incredibly popular dessert in Japan, so that would make sense. And then again, putting it that way makes me think it's a ripoff of Pom Pom Pudding. Well, whatever. It also kind of makes me think of French vanilla ice cream with chocolate syrup and topped in a raspberry syrup and with a raspberry on top. That sounds really good. Oh man, now I'm hungry. Anyway, to me, this is an alternate form shiny because it looks like it would be two completely different flavors of Slurpuff. And they both look as cute as they do delicious. That's kind of morbid. Shiny Slurpuff, the sweetest of shinies. Number 9. I have to preface this by saying that I know absolutely nothing about sports, or fighting, or wrestling, or anything of the sort. So if my reason isn't valid or is just straight up false, I apologize. Hawlucha is a Pokemon that never really did anything for me. I feel a little bad to say that because I know how popular this Pokemon is, and I can appreciate that it's most likely a good, useful Pokemon with a design that appeals to many. But this Pokemon just wasn't made for me, and there are gonna be those ones out there from time to time. Fighting and flying are both types that have never really appealed to me, being both equally disinterested in birds as I am sports. Well, maybe I like birds a bit better than sports, but they're kinda low on the list of interesting animals for me. I've also never been into any type of wrestling or anything like that. And to be honest, I don't find the colors that appealing either. I think the red, white, and orange look fine, but the green on its wings is a bit of an off-the-wall color for me. It doesn't look awful or anything, but it still looks pretty weird to me. I know that luchadores wear masks and other apparel that can be very vibrant and colorful, and I do think that they hit the mark with the coloring, but I personally just don't find it all that appealing. However, the shiny looks freaking badass. It almost looks like it could be a dark type, that's how badass it is. There's one little part that I don't care for, which is the green crest on its head, which I don't feel like matches with everything else. But everything else is so awesome that I barely even noticed that minor detail. The purple, red, and black work so well together, and I think it evokes the Lucha Libre aesthetic despite being more subdued. Like I said, I know fuck all about wrestling, so this may be a huge misunderstanding or misconception on my part, but it's always been my belief that wrestling, particularly as it is in the States, has these kind of hero-type wrestlers and these villain-type wrestlers. I don't know at all if this is a convention within Lucha Libre, but Shiny Hawlucha definitely makes me think of a villainous fighter. If that's actually a real thing, and I didn't just make it up in my head. Does that mean that Shiny Hawlucha counts as an alternate form shiny? Yeah, I'm counting it. Shiny Hawlucha is a totally badass villain. Number 8. The first color I think of when I think of a chestnut is not green. Whenever you see pictures of chestnuts, they're typically shown without a hull but still in the shell, so we have this deep, warm brown color associated with chestnuts. Even then, if you go to eat them, they're kind of a beigeish color, not green. I understand why the Chespin line are colored green. First, they're grass starters. It's basically a requisite that your grass starter be green somewhere. But second, I understand the design choice. They're chestnuts still within the hull, which is often green, especially when fresh from the tree. The brown on their faces and bodies is sorta meant to resemble the chestnut part. I won't say that I'm disappointed in these colorings. They're good choices, and each Pokemon in the Chespin line has a good color palette. But it did seem to be lacking that chestnut coloring, and that's why I love the shiny Chespin line. They have a very nice, deep chestnut color. Another reason I like this coloring is because it makes me think of fall. I don't know about other countries, but in Japan, the only place I've really eaten them, chestnuts are a fall-time food. Maybe it's because I've been living here for so long and have become accustomed to the seasonal divides in food and customs, but chestnuts just scream fall to me. And the shiny Chespin line's coloring also just screams fall. I think it goes well with the designs to make them look very much like fall time. I actually have a funny shiny story, one of my few. That might have biased me slightly on this one, but I do stand behind everything that I just said. I was playing through X at the same time as a number of my friends were. One of them wanted a Chespin to start with in addition to some other starters. At this point, I had already completed the game and done numerous Wonder Trays, so I had managed to get myself a Chespin. So he asked me to breed him one, and I was happy to oblige. I created a mere 1 egg for this task, because that was all I needed. I grabbed my egg, flew to Lumiose with my Talonflame, and started cycling around the city, waiting for my Chespin to hatch. And finally, when it hatched, it was freaking shiny! Like, what are the freaking odds? Well, actually, increasingly more as time goes on, but that's beside the point. I wasn't even breeding a ton. I wasn't even trying for a shiny. I just needed this one Chespin for my friend, and it ends up shiny. To me, that's freaking insane. I brought him another Chespin and didn't tell him about my shiny. Maybe that's deceitful, but it's a shiny, come on. I would hope that he would be understanding enough to not be resentful about it if he ever found out. These chestnut shinies are cute enough to ruin friendships. Thanks, shiny Chespin. Number 7. I love beautiful Pokemon. Who doesn't? Who doesn't love beautiful things in general? Assholes? Anyway, Aurorus is one of the most beautiful Pokemon in existence. The Amargasaurus off which is based is a beautiful, elegant, horrifying night terror. Seriously, I don't know whether I want to hug and embrace this thing or run in terror from it. Other than the crests though, I think Aurorus looks much more like an Apatosaurus, which I have no qualms against hugging and embracing. Except for the fact that it's more than 200 times my size. And I could only hug, like, its toe. And it would probably kick me halfway across the continent for doing so, but whatever. Apatosaurs are cute, elegant, and beautiful. And they definitely took the best parts of the Sauropoda and gave them to Aurorus. It definitely has the shape of Sauropoda, but has a much more compact yet demure look about it. The wavy crests are really elegant, and if that weren't enough, this rock type is lined with jewels. If that's not a freaking class act, I don't know what is. It definitely has a really nice coloring. The mid-tone blue on its body is a beautiful color and goes very nicely with the ice blue on its underbelly. However, I do have to say, due to the darker shade of blue, it actually looks a little closer to a water type than an ice type. But the shiny fixes all that, making its body stark white. I like how the darker blue gets transferred to its underbelly, creating a higher contrast against the white. Aurorus was already elegant to begin with, but making it white like this ups its elegance by like a billion. It looks so delicate, yet still like it would ice beam the shit out of you. Shiny Aurorus is elegance embodied. Number 6. Halloween, if you couldn't tell by how aggressively I make videos in October and how I do dick all in December, is my favorite holiday. Most of you probably know that I like horror, and that's a big part of why I like it. But I also like throwing on a costume. I've never done cosplay or anything, but I do love dressing up on Halloween. I will admit, pumpkin carving isn't one of my more favorable memories with regard to Halloween. However, you can't deny the iconography that is the jack-o'-lantern. You see one and you instantly think Halloween. When we think of Halloween, typically the colors that people tend to associate with it are orange and black. However, I think it's easy to forget that purple is a huge color during Halloween as well. Look at some Halloween decorations and you're guaranteed to find some purple in there. As I've said before, purple is one of my favorite colors. That's why I like the shiny Pumpkaboo line. Obviously, being based on a jack-o'-lantern, it's always going to look Halloween related, no matter what you do with it. But I really do appreciate that they kept with a Halloween-based coloring by making it purple. In addition, they also made the other main color black, which I think was a great idea. I don't think this purple color would have looked that great with the original dark brown, but with the black, it looks great. They also changed the lit sections just slightly, both to contrast in color more with the purple and contrast in light more with the black, and I think it turned out amazing. Pumpkaboo and Gourgeist are pure Halloween through and through. Number 5. This is yet another alternate form shiny. There really seem to be a lot of these this gen. Anyway, the Phantump line are cool ideas for Pokemon. We've had possessed dolls, possessed balloons, possessed chandeliers, and even possessed rocks. This is the first time that we've ever had possessed trees, which honestly is kind of a more obvious idea than any of those predecessors, given that we can often see faces in trees in spooky forests, but I digress. Regular Phantump and Trevenant look like your average deciduous trees, but they go through a cool transformation when they're shiny. First, their leaves change an orangish red, which sort of makes them look like fall and like their leaves are changing. But second, the brown bark changes to a white color. When I first saw this, it immediately made me think of birch trees. They go from rather plain looking trees to specifically fall-time birches, and I think that's really cool. This is a multiple form because regular Phantump and Trevenant are likely some sort of oak or maple, but when it's shiny, it changes to a birch. So it almost feels like there's some sort of variance and speciation going on with these shinies. Shiny Phantump and Trevenant are two badass birches. Number 4. Those who watched my playthrough of the Dog Island are probably aware that I have a black Cocker Spaniel named Melody. And I love her to bits. She's so happy and playful and sassy. When talking with my mom recently, she brought up the fact that most of the dogs we've had have been mostly black, so I kind of have an affinity for black dogs. All the dogs we've ever had, we've rescued, so that's given me a strong opinion in favor for rescuing dogs rather than buying them from breeders or pet stores. Because of this, in addition to having an affinity for black dogs, I also have a soft spot for them. I don't know if this is the case when it comes to buying from breeders, but when it comes to rescue dogs, there seem to be biases from the general public against black dogs and black cats. It's said that black dogs and cats don't get adopted as much as pets of other colors. This is a disputed phenomenon, and I won't say that it's completely true or completely false, but it makes me feel bad to think that great pets may be overlooked just due to the color of their fur. So, like I said, I have a strong affinity and a huge soft spot for black dogs. Furfrou is a white poodle with a black face, but its shiny is a black poodle with a white face. I like how all they had to do is make a simple inversion of the colors and they made an entirely different yet great looking color scheme. I really like both types of Furfrou. To me, I feel like they almost have a slightly different personality. Original Furfrou seems to have a slightly snobbish and arrogant air about it, but shiny Furfrou seems like it would be more reserved yet dignified. Pretty and elegant, I would rescue this fluffy black dog any day of the week. Number 3. For some of these slots, I've put the whole evolutionary line. For some others, they have similar changes, but I've only put one in the line on my list. I have my reasons, but for the most part, if they have similar changes made to the one that I ended up choosing, like Amora or Swirlix, you can probably assume that I like them too. Except for this one. Don't assume that I like Shiny Honedge or Doublade because they're dumb. I mean, look at them! They look like those dinky little plastic toy swords you fight your friends with in the toy store. But Shiny Aegislash is an entirely different story. Rather than the entire blade being red, it's simply the outline, which has a very cool effect, like it's drenched in the blood of its enemies. I seem to like Pokemon based off bloody weapons. I don't know what that says about me. Well, anyway, it's not just the blood that I'm into. Yeah, maybe I should talk to someone about this. Anyway, I do like the rest of the color scheme. The blade is a dark metallic color, and it retains accents of gold from its non-shiny counterpart. I think that Aegislash's original coloring is really nice. It's a very regal-looking golden sword, but shiny Aegislash sort of looks like what might happen if that sword falls into the wrong hands or something. Maybe I'm thinking a bit too much on this one. Well, either way, I like it. Shiny Aegislash is a totally badass bloody sword. Number 2. I know I already put the other fossil Pokemon on this list, but both of the fossil Pokemon are just so cool, so well designed, and the shinies are just so great that I had to put them both on this list. You can probably tell by now, but I'm talking about Tyrantrum. I do like Tyrantrum's original coloring, and I think it looks good on it, and it really suits the design. However, and I actually can't believe I made it this far without outright stating my color preferences, but I'm just not that into warm colors. My first 4 favorite colors in order are green, purple, blue, and black. Anything outside of that, I'm not too terribly into. Other than pink, I don't hate any of these colors, but I'm just not that into them. Typically, I prefer Sauropoda to Theropoda. There's just something about long-necked, 4-legged dinosaurs that really appeal to me more than their bipedal peers. But I do think that the coloring probably played a role in my choosing Amora over Tyrant. I just like blue better than red. Sorry, Tyrant. But when it's shiny, it turns blue. And if posed with a decision like that, I think I'd have an extremely difficult time choosing between them. Shiny Tyrantrum's shade of blue is just so pretty, and I think it looks awesome with the silver accents just here and there. If this is what I were gonna get, I might actually choose it over Aurorus in the end. It just looks so freaking cool. Sorry, Aurorus. It's not just that I like the coloring though. I think one of the things that made me put Tyrantrum so much higher on the list than Aurorus has to do with how unexpected this coloring was for me. Aurorus, you can really see where they'd make it white and blue. And while it definitely looks gorgeous in those colors, it's not really surprising. With Tyrantrum on the other hand, these colors just came out of nowhere. I mean, you look at the original and it just looks like a T-Rex, but then you see it's shiny and you're like, whoa, how'd they do that? How'd they think that up? That is some badassery right there. Aurorus for me went from being something beautiful to being another thing that's beautiful. But Tyrantrum went from being something that's okay to something that's awesome. Tyrantrum gets the spot for most improved shiny. This T-Rex is one that I'd love to have on my team. And it's a dragon. That's good. Number 1. This is a pick where I think that the Pokemon itself may be biasing me, but I just can't help it. Fairy is one of my favorite types. I think for me it's third behind Water and Psychic. I really like the Fairy typing. I just think it's kind of hilarious to think of these cute little things like Klefki or Wigglytuff taking down gigantic, terrifying dragons like Haxorus or Garchomp. And I think that the mascot for the Fairy type, Sylveon, represents its type well. Yeah, I know lots of people don't like it. I've already covered that in another video, and I don't care. I love Sylveon. It's cute, it looks gentle and friendly, and it's a fairy! What's not to like about this one? Except the ribbon feelers. Seriously, I'm never gonna get over that one. Anyway, I do love Sylveon, but it does have one small problem. It's pink! I know it's a fairy and all, but it's pink! Why's it got a pink? Well, luckily for me, they fixed this problem with a shiny and made it blue. And one of my favorite shades of blue among shinies, Electric Blue, and it looks awesome! Despite it still looking cute and having ribbons and whatnot, making it blue makes it look a little badass. Not kick you in the face soaked in the blood of your enemies badass, but just a little badass. Seriously, I think I need to get help with this whole bloodlust thing. Anyway, it just looks ever so slightly more threatening while still retaining the original feeling of Sylveon. And being that the colors are basically inverted, it keeps that little touch of pink there to show that it's still a fairy type. Shiny Sylveon takes a cute fairy and makes it into a cool fairy, and I love it. That's it for this Shiny September's X Talk, but the next one will be out soon. Thank you for watching, hopefully I will see you in the next video, and goodbye to you all, sirs and madams, and everyone in between.